what were the guitar players that shaped your playing? Because I'm a huge UFO fan, and I hear a lot of Michael Schenker in your playing. Was he an influence on you?
Yeah, every guitar player with melodic feeling, and guys like Schenker, Brian May, Leslie West early on, Jeff Beck, there's such a lot, Eddie Van Halen, Django Reinhardt, the gypsy player. But my first big influence was definitely Hendrix and early Clapton. Mm-hmm. And then a Dutch player that you may remember, Jan Akkerman, who played in a band called Focus. Mm-hmm. They actually were very big in the United States and in England for about 1 year, and then the egos started clashing and the band broke up, unfortunately. But Jan Akkerman was a pretty amazing player, and he was the only one out of all my heroes when I started that I could actually see live, because in Holland, in my part of the country, I live in the east part of the country, nothing is going on at the time. Even now, there's hardly anything going on, but at the time, all you could see was Dutch bands playing, and the best guitar player was definitely Jan, and another blues player called Ilko Gelling that you probably never heard of. He was with Golden Earring for about 1 year or 2 years, and that was it, but there's so many guitar players that in more or smaller quantities influenced my playing and my that's what happens when you grow up, you hear somebody out, you hear some cool ingredients here and you hear some cool ingredients there, and you kind of figure it out, because right now, I see all the kids looking at YouTube and taking guitar lessons on YouTube or buying DVDs and stuff, but, in those days, you had to figure it out yourself, and I didn't have a clue what those guys were doing, so I was basically going intuitively, although, my father and my sister are very accomplished classical piano players, so there was always classical music in the house, so I have a lot of classical melodic feeling imprinted on my hard disk in the back of my head, so I think that all came together, Clapton and classical music and Hendrix and Jeff Beck and guys like Schenker, Brian May, you name them.
Maybe some Blackmore, maybe some Richie Blackmore in there too, a little bit, right?
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. Blackmore was definitely also an influence, and Jimmy Page, of course,
Right.
And so yeah, there's so many great players, and every once in a while, maybe you do the same thing, but every once in a while, I dig out one of the old records because then I'm curious if I still think it's as great as I thought when I was growing up, and with 9 out of 10 of all those guys, I still think it's freaking amazing,
Well, that's the true test, Adrain, that I find as I get older, is that when you have these records and these bands that you were into as a kid, and then sometimes you leave them alone for a little while, and then you come back to them, it's like, that doesn't hold up, it's kind of dated, it doesn't give me the same feeling. But the ones that still give you the same goosebumps, the same thrill, those are the bands that you really know that are with you for life. Like for me as a big UFO fan, I put on Strangers in the Night, and I'm can be 15 again. It's as great as the first time I heard it. So you put on Thin Lizzy Live and Dangerous, it's still that. I put on Aerosmith Rocks, it's still that. The first few Van Halen records, that to me, the test of time thing is really what proves who still has it.
Well said, Eddie. Well said.
I totally agree. And what's interesting, what I found, and apparently you find the same thing, and probably millions of other music lovers, that as a kid, when you're 15 or 16 or something, you have a better judgment ability than you think when you're grown up. When you think, wow, I was a kid, I didn't know. And then you go back and you go, wow, I did know, because you didn't probably rationally know, but your instinctive gut feeling was going for the passion and the feeling and the playing of those guys. I forgot to mention Paul Kossoff, actually. Mm-hmm. I was looking at one of the free records that's hanging on my wall over here. Paul Kossoff was a big influence too, because I'm a huge fan of the Free and Rogers and Paul Kossoff and stuff. But it's interesting later on when you're grown up, quote unquote, because I hope we never completely grow up. But that when you're a kid, you have a pretty good, judgment ability of of something that's really great, you know, because like you said, all those guys, it still stands up when you listen to it now.
Yeah.
It's really amazing.
Eddie Trunk talking with Adrain Vandenberg. Before we get to Moon Kings, as I'm talking to you, I got a text just now from Mr. Coverdale. And he writes in the text, "Please send my best to my little Dutch brother, if you would be so kind, Edward, and to you, of course, too." And he sent a nice picture of himself in the studio. So that's a great segue into your Whitesnake years right there. And I know that David is actually on the Moon Kings record, which we'll touch on in a second. But looking back on your time in Whitesnake, how do you feel about it? Because I feel that in some ways, obviously on the live stage and in the videos, you were certainly prominently featured, but in a lot of ways, you know, you came into the band under somewhat strange circumstances in the sense that you joined a band with a record that was already made with guitars played by John Sykes, and here you are in the videos along with Vivian, you know, having to do that material. It would be a little while before you could put your own stamp on the band. Was that a tough spot for you at the time?
Well, no, because I did play on Here We Go Again. I played the solo on that one, and that was, for me, that was like a dream come true type of thing, because I was always a huge David fan, you know. I became a bigger Deep Purple fan when David joined than I was before. So when David and I got in touch in the early 80s, I couldn't work with David yet because the first Vandenberg album just came out, and I thought, man, you know, I can't let this go. But David and I stayed in touch because we had an instant connection, and we have that connection up to this day, as you just.
Oh, so I didn't know that. I got to jump in there. I didn't know that. A couple things real quick. So first of all, he reached out to you earlier to be a part of Whitesnake, and you were committed to Vandenberg. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and that was a very tough decision, you know, because I'm such a big fan of David's vocals, and David, you know, understood, because he said, yeah, you know, all right, let's stay in touch, and we did. And finally, in '86, the right moment came for the both of us, you know, to join forces, and I'm still extremely happy that happened, you know, and we became really close friends, and we're very regularly in touch. And whenever David plays Holland with Whitesnake, I always jump on stage for a couple of songs, and it's always such a blast, you know. And it's always really strange also to realize, because when I'm on stage with David, you know, we did work together for 13 years, pretty much. That whenever once every 2 years or something he's in Holland, and I join him on stage, it feels like it's only a couple of weeks ago, you know. That yeah, so that's something really timeless about the whole thing, which is really sweet.
How is it that? And this was always, I'm glad you cleared this up, because there was always a lot of debate about this amongst me and my friends. How is it that so you're on the studio, you're on the album, on the '87 record, that's your solo on the original recording of Here I Go Again on the '87 record?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So how was it that you were only on that one track and Sykes did the rest of the record?
Well, the record was pretty much finished, and David wasn't completely happy with how Here We Go Again turned out, because it is a re-recording of an earlier Whitesnake version of Here We Go Again, which sounded a little dated at the time. You know, it was very organ heavy, and
same with Crying in the Rain on that record too.
Yeah, right, exactly. And they both came from the same album, the Saints and Sinners album, which was really interesting to mention. That the first Vandenberg tour in England, I remember being in a rock club somewhere in Birmingham or something, and that record, Saints and Sinners, just came out, and they played in a rock club. They played Here We Go Again, that version at the time, and I was blown away. I thought, wow, what the hell is this, you know? And it was Here We Go Again, the first version, and I've always loved the song, you know. So it was really, really great to when David asked me to do work on that song, and it's probably, you know, it's probably the highlight of well, definitely one of the highlights of what I've done this far, because yeah, it became like a part of the song, you know.
Well, it's a massive song. I mean, here in America, I mean, I'm sure you know that for Whitesnake in America, it really wasn't until that '87 record, and slided in to some degree before the band actually became well known here. I know that in Europe it's a whole different thing, but here in America, that's how it was. And Here I Go Again, along with Still of the Night and Is This Love, are pretty much the biggest Whitesnake songs by far in the U.S. And I was always under the impression, because there's a radio remix, a popular version of Here I Go Again that came out at the time, and I was always under the impression that you were on that solo, but because you're not credited on the '87 record for the guitar on Here I Go Again, are you?
Yeah, I think so. I'm guest musicians or something, and because I hadn't joined David yet, because it was a strange situation, actually an interesting situation, because I got rid of the Vandenberg record contract, and then I got a phone call by a guy called John Kolodner. You must know him.
Sure, A&R guy, yep.
A&R guru, and he said, well, I have an offer for you. I would like to talk about a new record contract. Would you like to fly to America and discuss it? And I said, yeah, great, you know. So I flew to America, and I met Kolodner, and he said, well, to be honest, I have two propositions for you. One is, you know, to get rid of the other guys in your Vandenberg band and let me form a new Vandenberg around you with great American musicians. And I said, well, I'm not sure about that. And then he said, well, the other offer is, you know, would you like to do some work on Coverdale's new album, the Whitesnake album? I said, yeah, great, you know. So it was a real honor. And I met David in his studio, in Keith Olsen's studio at the time. And we hit it off immediately, you know. The last time we saw each other before that was probably 2 years before that at the Donington Festival. I think it was '83 or something. So, I remember it very clearly, you know. So we were in the studio and for a couple of days, and we talked a lot and we hung out together, and it was just really great, you know. So it was a very easy decision, you know. I thought, wow, this is the time, you know.
Well, you had a great run there with Whitesnake, and as you mentioned, it lasted until David said farewell, and then, of course, he started up the band again. Was there any consideration or any discussion at that point about when he started up Whitesnake again, going back in, or were you on to other things and he wanted to do a different band?
Well, we did talk about it. The problem with me was that I was completely tied up with long-term commitments with exhibitions, with the painting and everything. And at the same time, every time we talk or meet or something, we're always convinced that things fall together when they're meant to fall together. And sooner or later, we will always do stuff together. Like for instance, like you mentioned before, you know, like David singing on the Moon Kings album, which is just really great, you know, because it's such an honor and such a pleasure to have his voice on this record.
Well, let's move forward to that, Adrain, and let people bring everybody up to speed now that we've done some history. You're back with music, and you've got a new band and a new record that's just come out called Vandenberg's Moon Kings. So tell me about putting this band together.
Well, that came together in a very unusual way. You know, it's what happened was what started the whole thing off is since a couple of years, my local football team, the soccer team, you call it soccer in the States, don't you?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. We have a soccer team over here, and they became national champion, which meant that they were going to play all through Europe. Now, I'm not a big soccer fan in the sense of that I follow that all the time or watch games or whatever, but they had been asking me for a couple of years already to write an anthem for them, a stadium anthem of their own, you know, instead of playing We Are the Champions and this kind of stuff. So I agreed because initially they asked me to do that with Dutch lyrics, and I didn't like to write Dutch lyrics, you know, on a stadium song. So I said, no, you know, and so when it became champion, I said, well, you know, okay, I agreed, and I would like to do it, of course, with English lyrics. You know, I said, that's okay, because we're going to play internationally and stuff. So I did, and I needed a singer to sing that, you know. I didn't want to insult David by asking him to sing a soccer song for my local team. So I suddenly remembered a review when Whitesnake played Holland a couple of years before, or 1 or 2 years before that. And I was with David in the dressing room catching up, and I didn't hear the support act, but they got a really good review in one of the leading music magazines in Holland, and it said, well, they had a great singer. So I thought, I should probably check this guy out and see if he's suitable to sing that the soccer song. And that's actually how I ran into Jan, the singer of Moon Kings, because he sounded really great, as you can hear on the record. And I thought, wow, suddenly I got really inspired to continue writing and write the whole album, And that was one coincidence. And the other, the guys, the drummer and the bass player, were even more unusual because they're only 23 and 24, and 10 years ago, when they were 13 and 14, I was in the jury of a local talent contest show here in my hometown, and they were both in 2 different contests, and I made them win each.
No, you picked them.
The drummer. Yeah, the drummer was already pretty amazing when he was about 12, and Sam, the bass player, was 14 at the time, and he was playing like a Jacob Pastorius type of complicated piece with a rock attitude. So I thought, those guys, man. So I made him win, and 10 years later we crossed paths, and I thought, these are the guys. I didn't even do any auditions or anything, just intuitively I thought, this all fits together like it's supposed to, and let's go.
The singer, Jan, he actually, to me, his voice is reminiscent of David Coverdale's.
Oh yeah, David is one of the influences. Jan is in his 30s, and he grew up listening to singers like David and Plant, Rogers and Rod Stewart, early Rod Stewart, and Roger Daltrey and all those guys. But David is definitely a big influence on him, and he's got that like a similar kind of timbre in his voice as well. So that makes a comparison in connection with my Whitesnake association in the past, of course.
So Adrain, going. I'm sorry, just because I'm running out of time. So just going forward here with this band, what is the plan? Do you hope to have you done live shows? Do you think there's a chance you could come to America and do some stuff with this?
We've done. We started doing live shows here in March, and we've done a short European tour already, and we've done a bunch of festivals in Holland and Germany and France in the last 2 months. So we've reached a few 100,000 people already live over here, and we're definitely hoping to come to the States as soon as we can, and we're going to Japan in October, so things are really moving, and it's just really exciting, because it's under a new name, and it's a new band, and it's the kind of music that I've basically always made, and that's the music that's close to my heart, blues rock. Blues-based rock, basically, to make a complicated word out of it. But so I'm just really excited, and it's so fresh and new to be back on stage again. So you basically feel like a teenager starting all over again. And I've got my Marshall stacks behind my ass and my Les Paul dangling around my neck, and I'm just a happy, goofy Dutch dude, basically.
so instead of a paintbrush dangling from your hand, you've got the guitar and the Marshalls fired up again, and I know that's going to make a lot of people happy to hear.
Well, including myself. So it's just great,
When you play live, Adrain, when you play live with this band, obviously you only have one record with Moon King. So are you doing Vandenberg stuff? Are you doing Whitesnake stuff? What are you filling out the set with?
Yeah, we're doing a bit of both, and we also do some unexpected covers of songs that we really like from artists that we admire. But that's like only 1 or 2, because it's like you said, it's pretty much the complete Moon Kings record with two Whitesnake songs and 2 Vandenberg songs or something, and then you've got a show, So that's it, and we may change around a little bit and add some new songs and get some songs out and basically like everybody else is doing, I'm not reinventing the wheel, so.
Right. Well, the new album is out now. It's called Vandenberg's Moon Kings, and everybody can grab it. And Adrain, it's great to catch up with you, and it's great to have you back playing guitar again and doing the great melodic hard rock music that you've made with various projects over the years. I know that a lot of fans are excited that you're back out there doing it again. And before I let you go and get some sleep, what would you like people to hear from this record? Let me play something for everybody.
One of my personal favorites is Close to You. Lost and Lies, one of the two. Those are definitely, it's a hard thing because they're all favorites of mine.
Well, you know what? How about I'll play both. I'll play them both back to back for everybody. Yeah. Since we talked for a while, give everybody a good taste of the record and what you're doing now. So we'll give everybody a nice overview of a little sampling of this record again, which they can get now. And again, man, it's great to talk to you. If you do come to the U.S. and if you do come to New York, of course, I'd love to have you sit in the studio and we'll take some calls and we'll get into all sorts of stuff. And
yeah, great.
I'd love to do that.
Let's see if we can talk Metallica to be support act again. It may take a little bit of convincing, but you never know,
I'll get in touch with Lars and tell him that I just spoke to you. We'll see if maybe we can renovate that theater in Staten Island and open it up again and recreate that show. That would be pretty darn cool.
Yeah, that would be really, really funny.
Well, listen, man, thank you again for the time, and hopefully I'll see you soon here in the U.S. if you come over.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, and my love to everybody, and if David is listening, hey, David, talk to you soon, man.
All right, man. Take care, Adrain.
Bye, Eddie.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
You got it.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There it goes. Adrain Vandenberg. Great catching up with him. So very cool, and it's been a long, long time. People have been waiting for a long time to hear from that guy again, and I'm glad we were able to get a good, better than half hour with him, checking in from his home in Holland, where it's obviously way later. It's well past midnight there, so appreciate him checking in live with us here on Trunk Nation, Eddie Trunk Live, Sirius XM 39. Now, so we went through a little history there, which is, of course, what I love doing, and one of the things I love most about doing radio is taking that time and getting the story and getting a little more in-depth. So I'll play you now music from what we just talked about, which is Adrain's new band, which is called Moon Kings. It's the first two tracks in a row we'll do from the record. It starts with a song called Lust and Lies, and then goes into a track called Close to You. So two in a row now, brand new music from Adrain Vandenberg and his band Moon Kings. Then we have an hour down already in the show, but still 3 hours left to go. Tracy Guns at 8 Eastern. In studio during the last hour, Bruno and Steve from Danger Danger celebrating the 25th anniversary of their debut album with a few shows, one here in America and one, I believe, in Japan. But we'll have those guys here a little later on. So very busy as usual. Trunk Nation, Eddie Trunk Live, Sirius XM 39. As always, Twitter at Eddie Trunk. The phone number, Katie is standing by. She'll take your calls and requests, 866-315-2663. And all the other online connections as well, eddietrunk.com, Instagram, Eddie Trunk Official, Facebook / Eddie Trunk. You get the idea. 866-315-2663. If there's time between now and Tracy, we'll try to get in a few open phone calls. Also tonight, I'll premiere for you a track from the upcoming new album from Ace Frehley, which comes out a week from tomorrow. Ace expected to be here live in the studio with me next week, the day before the album's release. So more information on that on the online outlets that I just told you about. Here's a couple from Vandenberg's Moon Kings as we continue to move along here. Live edition of Trunk Nation, Sirius XM 39.